getting a bunch of barracks with tech labs. Right now, Marrow is pretty much committed to doing a bunch of marining action early, right? Sorry, let me rephrase that. So, right now, Socke does not know exactly what's going on in Marrow's base. Could be all these tech options. One of them could be the mass marine, but Socke has said to himself, I don't need to worry about a game where he goes mass marine, because I can just straight up kill that. I can just straight up, if he goes 4 barracks, I just deal with that super well. There's actually a recent game of White Rot where White Rot just actually put 1 Colossus up here and just straight up killed a Terran who was doing mass marine stuff. Very easy to do. Forces your opponent out of those options because he auto loses. So okay, now Socke has to deal with all this other stuff. Uh-oh, looks like the robotics facility is going to be a little bit close, but of course, with some good micro, you can hold this off easily. And why would I call this holding it off easily? Because Stalkers are faster than Marines. Watch what happens. These Marines are going to get chased down by the Stalkers. Probe's getting a little bit overeager. And look at this. These Stalkers cleaning up. Ooh, no. Chase that, Socke. Socke really should be chasing that. No Marauders anywhere in sight. Not at all. So what are we seeing? We're seeing a very similar look to the last game. We're saying, oh my god, this appears to be kinda Marine heavy. And last game appeared to be kinda Marine heavy. And we're seeing a lot of Stalkers and then a Colossus coming in last game, and we're seeing the same thing in this game. A lot of similarities going on. And again, in that previous game, Socke was able to respond by getting the Colossus, and there was very little Marrow could do at this point. And now Socke is rushing to get the Colossus, easily killing a naked barracks user. But for a player like Marrow, who's getting all these tech labs very quickly, now that is the game situation that Socke needs to worry about. And what we're going to see is that games are just not as clear as this black and white, does this counter that, does that counter this, because, you know, if you go for Colossus Rush, you still have to worry about the player who is able to get a lot of tech labs out very quickly. And look, more barracks coming down by Marrow. Very clever play by Marrow. And, you know, there's tons of examples of forcing in this game. You know, like a Zerg player will make a very early 9 pool. And that will mean that the Protoss player... is going to have a lot of trouble early expanding, getting a Nexus up very quickly. What are some other things? Okay, well, a Terran player who gets a lot of Reapers early on is going to outright kill the player who tries to tech with just 1 gateway too fast. Very simple sort of idea going on. So in that case, you always have to say, what is it left over that I'm dealing with? And again, thank you so much, Starcraft 2, for just crashing on me. Now I got some great illustrations of it. Now I'm going to slow this down to normal. Now look at this great micro going on, just roasting these Marines. Look at that beautiful micro by a Socke. He's just doing such sick damage. But a few too many Marauders came out. Look at how all the Marines get roasted. Look at this. In this battle, how many Marines were at the start of that? I mean, it's going to end with 0. Oh, look at this. 24 Marines. And we're just going to watch again as they just get roasted. Just look at the hell down here in this battle. Look at this. Goodbye. Huge numbers of Marines. It's Socke with perfect target firings. Yeah, that does kill those. But you have to worry about this other transition that Marrow does where he gets so many barracks with tech labs and just slams out tons of Marauders. And now I think very clearly this is Trouble Town for Socke, right? He's going to have to do something miraculous if he wants to be able to defend this. And of course, as Marrow likes to say, miracles do not occur in Sweden, nor in Germany. You know, just ask the refs at the World Cup. Bazing! Yeah, so, I mean, Marrow doing a very good job. Now, the thing is that this isn't to say, by any means, that our friend Socke should not Colossus Rush in this spot. Absolutely do not believe that that is the case. I'll talk about that a little bit after we just see Marrow do the cleanup. I'm going to speed this up just a bit, because I want to be able to get a Q&A in. So he's running up. Oh my god, Socke trying to do the defense, but of course it's hard when you're at a 3 times food deficit. Ooh, look, some nice little micro going on. Oh god, I love Socke's micro with his Colossi. And there's one force field going down, just for the sake of having a force field go down. And good game. Whew, thank god we got through the end of that game. Whew, that was boring. Had to just blast through that. What was I talking about? Ah, yes. So the thing is that a lot of people, in a vacuum, will watch that game and will say, oh man, if you go for a really fast Colossus, it's too easy to die to blah. You know, and that's not exactly the case. You heard me use this word forcing and say this like a million times, and I'm still going to say it again. That opening that Socke did demolishes the player who goes for the 4 naked barracks. Now the question is, how does Socke deal with everything else? And that is a very, very, very important concept to have just in your back pocket. Is to think about all the things that you already nixed out of the way. So in terms of like your little countering and all that good stuff, make sure that you're thinking of having stuff as a response or having it in advance. In that case, the Colossus in advance felt a certain way. In the previous game, the Colossus as a response felt a different way. It is not as simple as Colossus versus Marine. So I will take some questions now. So, Onosaurus says, why is it considered okay for Terran to do a 1-1-1 build? But many frown upon Protoss getting one of each unit producing structure early on. So their tech trees do operate a little bit differently. Well, actually, a lot differently. Because for Terran, you kind of are committed to this straight line. You know, like after you get your barracks, you get the factory. And after you get your factory, you get the starport. And, you know, you need, let's say you're a barracks player. You have to get the barracks, because if you want to make any barracks unit at all. And then if you want to upgrade them, well, you have to get the factory so you can get the armory up. And they're going to have gas buildup, so you're going to get the starport. So with Protoss, what ends up happening is you just have enough units to spend all your resources on that you can keep all your stuff down, and you can devote yourself to sort of this tech path or that tech path. I really wish I had a Kleenex here because my nose is runny, but whatever. Excuse me, hope you don't mind me. And what's part of the reason why it's okay for a Terran to do a 1-1-1 build is because those 3 things complete a lot of the necessary tech. If you open 1-1-1, that is 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport. If you want to go mech, you already have a nice setup to go mech. If you want to go medic marine, you already have a nice setup to go medic marine. You'll pretty much be using like all of those structures. But with Protoss, you don't really have good like mass units out of all the unit producing structures. Like gateways are really a lot of your core. So you kind of need that as like a center, and a lot of the other spokes that come off that, Templar, Colossi, Void Rays, and Phoenixes, they're kind of like support for that center bulk. I'd love to see people figure out a way, you know, to go like Phoenix Colossus or something really kooky like that. Some analog to Corsair Reaver. But just the biggest reason why I'm leery about Protoss doing that is it's so easy to die. You saw Socke getting a lot of unit producing structures, and he was really close to Marrow just waltzing in his base and winning. I actually honestly think that if Marrow had done some early aggression, like right after he snapped back against that push, he could have just won. So yes. So Dr. Scotto asked about my vacation. Where was I? I went to Washington, D.C. I got to see the Washington Monument. Of course, I played Fallout 3, so I put my hand on it and was like, there are snipers up there. Happens. So let us divine. So Wild Skunk says, do you think that splitting Marines into 2 or 3 groups would have saved a few free deaths during that last fight? Yeah, I mean, there's always ways to micro the situations to your advantage. That can be very difficult to see clearly until you're like tip-top of the line diamond player. You know, for any silver gold level players, even the platinums and the low diamonds, a lot of it is unit composition and having good understanding of what your opponent's capable of doing and what is a good way for you to respond. And I love the analogy to chess, where you can look at a situation and say, okay, you know what? In 5 moves, he can checkmate me. But I don't really have to worry about that for 2 more moves. So I can do something else in that time. and you're kind of like aware of how many moves you have. You know, like nothing's threatened here. If he moves that, he would threaten it in 2 turns, but not quite now. And with StarCraft, the analog is, well, I have enough time to get a Colossus without dying. You know, you just get a good sense of this over time, and that's the sense that I think is super core. It takes like a phenomenal player to say, yes, if I just split my Marines, I will happily be able to defend against the Colossi. Because a lot of times, if you're like a lesser player, you can convince yourself, I just need to control better. And at the end of the day, you might control perfectly, but if your money's at 2,000, 1,000, you're making all the wrong stuff. It doesn't matter how good you control. So, continuing right along. Sid Black says, Day 9. Wasn't the Stargate in the first game there to make Marrow commit to